Questions to the Minister for the Cabinet Office, Martin Doherty-Hughes.
Speaker. Here.
Mr. Speaker, some elements of participation, like polling day turnout, lie far beyond the powers of mere government and depend on the importance of the poll and the brilliance or otherwise of the campaigns. But governments can help things like voter registration, where we are about to begin canvas pilots to make the registration process quicker, cheaper and more digital. We're also working with groups like the British Youth Council, Operation Black Vote and Universities UK to encourage under-registered groups to sign up, and we are partnering with our embassies abroad and the Electoral Commission to run registration drives in the run-up to the polls on May the 5th and June the 23rd.
Martin Doherty-Hughes.
Mr. Speaker, I'm grateful for the Minister's answer, but nevertheless, the week before the Scottish Parliament elections, the elections to the Welsh Assembly and the Northern Irish Assembly, this Government has overseen the disenfranchisement of over 770,000 people by the introduction of a self-assessment in terms of the registration process. How can this Government hold its head up and say it's increasing participation?
Here.
Mr. Speaker, the registers are being reduced by the entries of people who have either moved house or died. They are not therefore likely to turn up and vote. There is, however, a parallel problem, which is of the missing millions of people who have never been on the register and need to be found. We can't cross them off because they aren't on it, but we all collectively, on a cross-party basis, do need to get out there and sign these people up. And I would completely agree with them. And if he wants to join in a cross-party deputation to do so, I'd be only too delighted to help.
Mr. Michael Fabricant.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. But would my honourable friend agree with me, equally as important as ensuring that those who are entitled to vote are able to vote, is to make sure that genuine candidates are not disenfranchised by those people who get onto the electoral register who oughtn't to be there because they're on there by fraud?
Absolutely, Mr. Speaker. It is crucially important that we have a register which is both complete and accurate. And therefore I'm looking forward with great anticipation to the report by my right honourable friend, the member for Brentwood and Ongar, into electoral fraud, where, amongst other things, I'm sure he will cover this.
Cat Smith.
What specific work is the Government doing with students and young people to ensure that they're registered to vote?
Well, Mr. Speaker, we're undertaking a number of different approaches here. Firstly, we're working with Universities UK and the Association of Colleges. There's a great deal of work being done in universities themselves, and we are also examining very, very closely the work that's being done in places like Sheffield University to sign up students when they first arrive and enrol at the university itself. So there's a great deal we can do, but probably more as well.
Peter Bone.
Mr. Speaker, I would like to congratulate the Government on driving up democratic participation in the EU referendum by publishing their leaflet, the government leaflet, which I understand is up for the Pulitzer Prize for the best work of fiction.
How much money am I going to
Would the Minister agree with me that is driving more people to take part in the EU referendum because they're so cross and want to leave?
Well, Mr. Speaker, I'm glad that my honourable friend enjoyed the read, and I would just point out to him that something like 85% of the population say they want to hear more about the issues from the government. But if it does serve to drive up participation amongst either Remainers or Leavers, then I'm sure he and I will both be pleased.
Tom Watson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. There is much concern about the government's new proposals for public appointments in that they might decrease social mobility. Sir David Normanton has gone as far to say that Grimstone's proposals would enable ministers to set their own rules, override the rules whenever they want, appoint their own selection panels, get preferential treatment for favoured candidates, ignore the panel's advice if they don't like it, and appoint someone considered by the panel as not up to the job. Would the Minister like to answer that question?
Before the Minister does, I'm sure the honourable gentleman is concerned about the appointment process in the context of the drive to increase democratic participation.
Speaker, yes. Social mobility in public appointments is very important for democratic participation.
Mr. Speaker, I'm not quite sure how I link any kind of answer to democratic participation, but I will nonetheless point out that we are adhering consistently to the Nolan principles in everything we're doing in this area.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I appreciate the Minister's answers to my creative question. And I don't believe everything I read in the papers. But this week it was revealed that the Culture Secretary recommended 5 candidates for a trustee of the Public Gallery. 3 of them were Tory donors, and 1 of them a former Tory minister. Is that a way of including democratic participation for Tory cronies?
Mr. Speaker, I suspect the honourable gentleman is trying to raise a serious point, but I think this adheres to the principle of if you're in a hole, you should stop digging. Yeah.